Let us see a few questions and answers in DBMS, Database Management System. First is, what is database? What is database? So database is a collection of information that is organized. So two things are very important here. First is, it is collection of information, and then the information is organized, and these data has to be related. So a database is a collection of interrelated or related data which are organized in certain manner. The organization is because it can be easily accessed, managed, and updated. Accessed, managed, and updated. So, what is DBMS? Database is this. What is DBMS then? The DBMS stands for Database Management System. Database, we have seen. The management system along with the database is Database Management System. What extra does this DBMS has from database? It is a collection of programs now that enables user to create and maintain a database. So collection of programs which are called for management system or managing the system that enable the user to create and maintain a database. Next is, what is database system? So the database and this DBMS software together, they are called as database system. Well, DBMS, only the DBMS will do because this consists of your database system only. This is database system only, but there are certain words for each and everything. Database is a collection of interrelated data organized in certain manner. DBMS is the collection of programs that enable the user to create, maintain, modify, update, etc. to the database. And database management system, if you combine database and DBMS, it becomes database system. What are the advantages of DBMS? There are various advantages of DBMS. First is the redundancy is controlled. All those advantages which we have seen in database, DBMS and the file organization, or you say the relational database management system. You can also talk about them here. So first is redundancy is controlled. So there is no duplication. Redundancy means extra will not be there or same stuff will not be there. Then second is providing the multiple user interface. So you have user interface, proper GUI type of interaction that is possible on the background. The queries may be running. Then because database are very important, information is very important. When you lose your mobile, you're not worried about your mobile, but you are worried about your contacts. Okay, my contacts will be lost. So those backup and recovery also is there in your DBMS. Then the protection, the security, safety, and protection. So unauthorized access is restricted in database management system. Then there are various integrity constraints which you can place on. Means you want only salary account to not to go below 1,000. So these integrity constraints can be achieved in DBMS. These are the few advantages. DBMS has various advantages. These are few of them. What is normalization? If somebody asks me and I have to explain to a layman, then I will say that normalization is nothing but decomposition of the table. You have a table, you have made a table, now you want to decompose it. This is normalization. But here, the process of analyzing the given relational schema based on their functional dependency and primary key to achieve the properties. What are the properties? To minimize the redundancy, to minimize the insertion, deletion, and updation anomalies. So this is the normalization. So it is the process of breaking or decomposing the relational schema such that the function which are on the basis of the decomposition is on the basis of functional dependency and the primary key. What is data model? What do you mean by this data model? A collection of conceptual tools for describing data relationships, data semantics, and constraints. So this is a collection. It's a collection of the tools, conceptual tools for describing data relationships, data semantics, and constraints. What is ER model? Entity relationship model. What is ER model? So ER model, this is a data model. ER model is a data model which is based on real world that consists of basic objects called entities. These are entities, undivisible or easily discernible from in the real life world scenario, and of relationship among these objects. So this is the data model which is based on these basic objects and relationship. And entities are described in database by set of attributes or say their properties. What is object-oriented model? Object-oriented model. This model, which is based on the collection of objects. So object contains values stored in instance variable in the object, And the object also contains bodies of code that operate on these objects. So these bodies of code are called methods. So object that contains same type of values and the same arguments, they are grouped together into the classes. So we start with, this is a bottom up approach basically. You first identify the entities, that is the real world or real life entities, and you call them an object. There are various objects that can be there. So and those objects have certain properties, like a human being can be an object, and the property is like a human being has 2 eyes. This is a property, and human being, they run or they can walk. So this is one of the property, or running is a function that can be applied on this entity which is called as human being. So apart from this, if we see that these objects, they can be combined, grouped together, means human beings who are males, human beings females. So male can be one class. These objects, the various male objects can be in one class. Various objects, female can be in another class. So this is how object-oriented model can be seen. What is an entity? What is an entity? An entity is a thing or an object of importance about which data must be captured. So about which the data is to be captured, and it is signifying some real life importance. Then this entity is a thing or object. So it is a thing or object. These two are very important. You have to speak about this also. Next is, what is DDL? Data definition language. What is data definition language? So the database schema is specified by a set of definitions expressed by a special language called as data definition language. So you are setting the definitions which are done by a special language called DDL. What is DML? Data manipulation language. This language that enable user to access or manipulate data which are organized by appropriate data model. There are procedural DML and non-procedural DML. This you can see here, procedural DML and non-procedural DML. So procedural DML are also known as low-level DML. Non-procedural DML are also known as high-level DML. So this procedural DML or low-level DML, these are DML or data manipulation language. They require a user to specify what data are needed and how to get these data. First, it requires a user to specify the data to be needed and how to get those data. While the non-procedural DML, it requires a user to specify what data is needed without specifying how to get these data. The next is, what is DML compiler? DML compiler, which compiles the DML, because DML is a language, data manipulation language. Now you want to compile it. So what is DML compiler, which compiles this DML? So it translates these DML statements in a query language into low-level instruction that the query evaluation engine can understand. So DML compiler takes this statement, which is in a query language, into the low-level instruction. So the compiler does what? Normal compiler. It takes high-level language, converts into the machine readable form. In the same way, DML compiler takes DML statements and convert them into low-level instructions. What is query evaluation engine? Query evaluation engine. See, it executes these low-level instructions which are generated by your DML compiler. So first you have DML statements, then they are converted from by DML compiler to low-level instruction. Then this low-level instruction are taken by query evaluation engine, and then they are converted to, or the converted low-level instruction, they are executed by this query evaluation engine. Next is, what is a functional dependency? This is an important question. What is a functional dependency? FD. See, functional dependency is the point where normalization actually initiates. Functional dependency exists when a relation between two attributes allow you to uniquely identify the corresponding attribute's value. Okay, let me tell you again that functional dependency, it exists when a relation, say I have a function dependency like this. So A to B. This is a function dependency I have, A to B. So B is functionally dependent on A. B is functionally dependent on A. That means between two relation, between two attributes, allows you to uniquely determine the corresponding attribute value. So functional dependency exists when a relation between two attributes, these are relation between two attributes, allow you to uniquely identify the corresponding attribute value. So now if B is functionally dependent on A will uniquely identify B. For example, if this is ID, or you can say some social security number. Okay, now social security number, and here you say I have name, right? Now this is name. So name is function dependent on the social security number. So this social security number can uniquely identify the name, and this is the functional dependency which we are talking about right now. What is 1NF? 1NF means first normal form. First normal form. So the first normal form or 1NF is the first and the simplest type of normalization that can be implemented in a database, and this is the 1NF which is normally used and employed by various database management system. Mostly databases, they are in 1NF, and depending upon special requirements they go for say 2NF and above. So the main aim of 1NF is to eliminate the duplicate columns from the same table. You don't want duplicacy in the same table. Removing the duplicate columns. Second is creating separate table for each group of related data, and identify each row with a unique column, that is a primary key. So primary key uniquely identifying a tuple or a record or a row, then creating separate tables which are related, and then removing or eliminating the duplicate columns. Next is 16. What is fully functional dependency? Fully functional dependency. So if functional dependency of this sort, x to v, x to y, is fully functional dependency if removal of any attribute of a from x, removal of any attribute a from x means that this dependency does not hold anymore. So if this is x, this is y, and if you remove any attribute from x, then dependency does not hold anymore. What is 2NF? What is 2NF? A relation. This is again a normalization form, and in this you break the table with respect to certain functional dependency criteria and primary key criteria only. So a relational schema R is in 2NF if it is in 1NF. First is it should be in 1NF, and every non-prime attribute of A in R, that is the relation R we are talking about. So every non-prime attribute A in R is fully functionally dependent on a primary key. Again, relational schema which is in 2NF should always be in 1NF. This is true. And every non-prime attribute of A, that is not primary attribute of A, because A will contain primary attribute and non-primary attribute also. So the non-prime attribute, every non-prime attribute of A in any relationship R is again fully dependent on the primary key only. Now what is 3NF then? A relation is in 3 or third normal form when it is in second normal form. So obviously it will be in 1NF. So it is in second normal form. That means every non-prime attribute of say in a relationship R will be fully functionally dependent on primary key. So this is okay. Then what 3NF adds to? What is complementary in 3NF apart from this 2NF? There are no functional or transitive dependency between two or more non-key attributes. Again, there is no functional or transitive dependency between two or more non-primary key attributes. And transitive means A to B, B to C, that means A to C. That is, if B is functionally dependent on A and C is functionally dependent on B, that means C is functionally dependent on A. This kind of transitivity or functional dependency should not be there between two non-primary key attributes. What is BCNF? Boycott normal form, BCNF. So a table is in BCNF if and only if it is in 3NF, and every determinant is here at candidate key. Apart from 3NF, what we have seen, all those criteria, one more thing is there. Every determinant is a candidate key. Then what is 4NF? What is 4NF? 4NF means fourth normal form. The fourth normal form requires the table to be in BCNF. So there is BCNF between 3NF and 4NF also. So BCNF, fourth normal form, wants that a table should be BCNF and no multi-value dependency should be there. There should be no multi-value dependency. Then what is 5NF? Fifth normal form. See, again, from 4, the dependencies we talk about starts as, or you will see them as multi-value dependencies only. So 5NF means, what is 5NF? This means a table is in 5NF. And this is also known as PGNF, projection join normal form. So 5NF or PGNF, if it is in 4NF and it cannot have a lossless decomposition into any number of smaller tables. If it cannot have a lossless decomposition means, decomposing the table or separating the table such that when they are combined, there should be no loss of data. This is lossless decomposition. So it cannot have 5NF or PGNF means if it is in 4NF, it cannot have a lossless decomposition into any number of smaller tables. Next is, what is a query? What is a query? Query, with respect to, we are talking about DBMS only. It relates to user commands that are used to interact with the data. So if you want to interact with the data, and interaction can be anything. You want to modify the data, you want to just know the information. So a query, they are just user command that you will be able to interact with the database. What is meant by query optimization? What do you mean by query optimization? This is the phase that identifies an efficient execution plan for evaluating a query that has the least estimated cost is referred to as query optimization. Please let me explain you this. You have a query. Okay, you write some query, I write some query. There are various ways of writing query. No, when we are writing query, the query which is the most efficient or execution is most efficient, that is how we make that query, and the process is query optimization. What is an attribute? Attribute is generally, it's a property of an entity. Okay, but here we can also say that an attribute is nothing but the column. In layman terms, you understand it to be one of the column of the table. So in particular, if it is a particular property which describes an entity. So a property of an entity is called the attribute. What is RDBMS? We have seen DBMS. Now RDBMS, Relational Database Management System. So RDBMS is a database management system, or these are the category of database management system that maintain data and record and indices in tables. See, the records are not only stored in the table, but the indices are also placed in tables. The next is, what is difference between DBMS and RDBMS then? There has to be a difference between RDBMS and DBMS also, because they are two different terms. So the answer for this RDBMS and DBMS is, DBMS provides a systematic and organized way of storing, managing, and retrieving from collection of logically related information. Okay, DBMS provides a systematic and organized way of storing, managing, and retrieving from collection of logically related information. While this RDBMS, it provides what DBMS provides, of course, but above that, it provides relationship integrity also. So apart from this database management system, if the relationship between the various organized tables are there, we call them as RDBMS. Okay. Then what is SQL, structured query language? SQL is a structured query language. It is an ANSI, American National Standard Institute standard computer language for accessing and manipulating database system. So these are actually the de facto language now for interacting with the database systems. So SQL systems are used to retrieve and update data in a database. SQL systems are used to retrieve and update data in a database. What is stored procedure? What is a procedure which is stored? So a stored procedure is a named group of SQL statements that have been previously created and stored in a server database. Okay, stored procedure, certain SQL statement with name group that have been previously created and stored in a server database. What is a view? What is a view? So a view may be a subset of the database, a view may be subset of the database, or it may contain virtual data that is derived from the database files but is not explicitly stored. Again, the way you define the query, the way you create SQL statements, there are ways of creating the views also. That is a particular instance. So the view may be the subset of a database, a part of a database. It may contain virtual data that is derived from the database files but is not explicitly stored anywhere. What is trigger? Trigger. A trigger is a SQL procedure that initiates on certain action, an action, or say an event. Actually, these are the actions which are initiated on certain events, and this event can be insert, delete, and update. Right. So, a trigger is a SQL procedure that initiates an action when an event occurs. What is index? What is index? An index is a physical structure containing pointers to the data. Say, in a book, whenever you have a book, you have index also to easily navigate, and rather than going sequentially, you can go to any other page and find where your data is. So an index is a physical structure containing pointers to the data. What is extension and intention? Extension and intention. So extension means it is the number of tuples present in a table at any instance. This is time dependent. And intention means it is a constant value that gives the name, structure of table, and constraints that are laid on it. Let me tell you again, extension is the number of tuples which is present at any instant. So depending upon the time, it will variate. While intention, it is a constant value that will remain constant, that gives the name, structure of table, and constraints which are laid on it. Next is, what do you mean by atomicity and aggregation? Atomicity and aggregation. So atomicity states that the database modification must follow all or nothing rule. Either the modification should be complete, means totally done, or they should not at all, even if it is somewhere in between. So each transaction is said to be atomic. If one part of the transaction fails, the entire transaction fails. What is aggregation then? Aggregation is a feature of entity relationship model. Aggregation is a property or a feature of ER model that allows a relationship set to participate in another relationship set. This is indicated as an ER diagram by drawing a dashed box outside the aggregation. Let me tell you again. A feature of entity relationship model that allows a relationship set to participate in another relationship set. What it is? Relationship inside the another relationship. This is aggregation. Okay, you'll see it by a dash box around the aggregation. So this is the first part of this DBMS question and answer series. More are coming. Thank you so much. Take care.